What's going on, everybody? I know I've been gone for quite a while, but starting today, I'm going to be uploading far more consistently now, including a franchise ranking of Mission Impossible in a couple days here. But let's start with our review for The Final Reckoning. Overall, I really enjoyed this one. There are some flaws here, which I'll talk about, but if this does really end up being the last Mission Impossible film, or at least the finale for Ethan Hunt, I'm going to be pretty satisfied with it. I had a good time overall here. I'm going to jump in and start with the negatives. That way I can get to the fun stuff and the positive stuff at the end because, like I said, I did have a good time with this one, but there are those flaws. The main one here is there is just too much exposition, especially in that first hour. Like, I really thought 30 minutes could have been cut out to make this just a much tighter experience overall, and not much would have changed about it or about the audience's understanding of what is happening. It felt like they were repeating the same stuff to the audience 2 or 3 times throughout the film, especially in that first hour, which I was just like, okay, I understood this the first time you said it. I understood a lot of the stuff you're talking about with the entity from Dead Reckoning. Let's get the ball rolling here. And also in that first hour, there are just so many callbacks to the first few films, trying to tie all of them together. And a lot of it just felt like the movie baiting for nostalgia. There is one character in here who you find out was related to this character from a previous film, and it serves no point at any time in the plot. And it's like, why did we need that there? This could have been cut out. There was no reason for that to be there other than going in the moment. And this film really is just Dead Reckoning Part 2. I mean, that was the original plan. Dead Reckoning was going to be Part 1, and this was going to be Part 2. Generally, with Part 1s and Part 2s, you want the first part to be the one with all of the exposition. That way the second one can be mostly just payoff for the story. And just the fact that the entire first hour was that, it was exposition, it was just characters talking at the audience, trying to get them to understand when we kind of already understood, it just bogged everything down, and it really made that first hour paced very poorly. And like I said, I just feel like this could have been a tighter experience. But those problems aside, with the pace, with the exposition of that first hour, which is just going to make people check out. I think there are going to be some people that just go, nope, I don't like this one already because of that. But no spoilers, but once the government kind of finds where Ethan is, then I'm like, okay, now we actually have the ball rolling. Stuff finally starts to happen. You finally actually start to feel the stakes about what it is with these nuclear superpowers in the world and what the entity's doing to them and just all of that, and then getting into the action. There's a submarine sequence here in the middle of the film, which is just the most tension-filled sequence, I think, in the entire franchise, really. I was on the edge of my seat, heart pumping out of my chest. I was really locked into that. That was a really great sequence. And then the third act, big stunt piece with Tom Cruise on the airplanes. I really loved that one. I don't want to say that that's the best stunt in the franchise this early. That might be, a little hasty with it, but that just might be the most insane thing he's ever done here. And also, this isn't about the movie itself, but I'm so glad they just didn't spoil all of the big action stunt things just in the promotional materials. They had clips of it in there, yes, but it's not like the motorcycle sequence from Dead Reckoning, where that was kind of all they were showing. So when the motorcycle sequence in Dead Reckoning came, I was kind of like, yeah, I've seen that 150 times already because of the trailers and the marketing for it. They didn't do that with this one, which made me feel way more into the stunts in this one than I did in the previous one. And also, just outside of the base action stunt stuff, which a lot of people come to this franchise for, I thought there was some really good emotional character work in this one that they really pulled off way better than they did with Rebecca Ferguson in Dead Reckoning, because there is still a giant Rebecca Ferguson sized hole in this one, but what they were able to do with another character in this one, it was just so much better. You felt so much more. Like with her in Dead Reckoning, I just kind of felt empty after it and I just lost emotional connection. With this one, I was really into it emotionally when that happened, and then when they call back to that later on in the film, you know, it was just really sweet, and I really liked how they handled it. And also with the callbacks that I mentioned at the start of the video, a lot of them just didn't work, but there was one that I really liked in this one where they brought a character back from one of the very first films. I believe most of you probably already know the one I'm talking about, but I won't spoil it just in case you don't know who that is. But this character was honestly one of the best characters in this movie. I was really surprised by that. I didn't think his inclusion was going to be much of anything at all other than just a moment like some of the other stuff that they did in that first hour. But this one, I really felt worked very well. So I really liked that inclusion. And just the team in general and their connection, it's just great stuff to watch. You know, we've built such an emotional connection to so many of these characters for many films now, and seeing so much stuff pay off in this one, I really liked where it came to its conclusion at. So, you know, overall, while there may be those flaws, I just can't not like one of these movies outside of the second Mission Impossible, which is just an entirely different movie. But that aside, I just can't dislike this one. You know, I'm just so much of a fan of this franchise. I just get sucked into so much of what they do, and this film is no different. I'd probably give it 3.5 stars. Part of me feels like that may be too critical because I did really have a great time at the end of the day. The last 2/3 really pay off well. Part of me feels like I'm not critical enough because I feel like a lot of people really are going to have a lot of issues with the exposition, with the storytelling here. But like I said, I had a good time with this one. What did you guys think of this? Comment your thoughts down below on Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. Did you think it was a good conclusion, a good finale to this franchise, if it is that finale? If you liked what you saw here today, consider liking, subscribing, and be on the lookout for that Mission Impossible franchise ranking in a couple of days.